Welcome everybody to Catchin Up with Carter and Fan podcast, episode number 22. And after the last episode, I needed something more lighthearted and more happy. So if you know me and know my family, we love animals of all sorts, shapes, sizes, whatever, you name it. There's a cute one of it. I can tell you that. Kelsey is one to love even the cute scorpions. She showed me a mother scorpion with a gabillion of these baby venomous killers on the back, and she's like, look at how cute they are. In her defense, she was pregnant, and everything baby or small at all was cute during pregnancy. But anyway, back to the podcast tonight. I was learning about chickens, because getting ready for Rockford trying to pass their law for that, and with the whole world ending thing, people are looking at ways to be self-sufficient. And we fumbled upon this YouTube video for something to watch, and it was about goat milking and goat farming. And Kelsey and I were watching it, and within like a few minutes, I'm like, what? There's a lot of things I did not know about the quality of the milk and how good it is for you and the products you can make out of it, and just goat facts in general. So here I was like, you know what? I gotta do one on goats. So tonight I found one of somebody that breeds them. I don't know exactly all she does with them. This is going to be a raw interview with Deb out of McHenry County. So she is known for the goats. I'm excited. And I was just looking at some quick facts. I did not know that there are that many goats. And for goat meat, I did not know that they're the top selling meat consumed in the whole world. I didn't know that. But this is mainly about milking and the products you can get out of the milk. Tonight, I don't know if we're going to talk the meat side of it, but probably not. I think we love animals so much that I don't want to think about that. Just the same thing with chickens. We'll eat the eggs, but we love the chickens. But so I get to interview Deb, and Deb's going to tell us about her farm and about goats and what we need to know about goating or goat farming or being a goatsman or whatever the right terminology is, raising goats to help you be self-sufficient in the areas that allow you to have those, by the way. Unlike me, I cannot have them in the city of Rochelle, so I won't be having any goats anytime soon. But if I find a farm, I am going to own some goats. So in a minute, we're going to talk to Deb about goats. Here's a couple messages from us, and we'll be right back telling you the good and the bad about goats.
Hey, it's Jackson from Life with Jack. After this video, take a moment to scroll down to my videos, and don't you worry if you like them. More are coming soon. And subscribe, like, and ring the bell of notifications so you don't miss out on another good video.
Hey you, you over there. Do you have an idea, a podcast idea, something that would go great on this show that somebody should know about, that you or somebody that you know could tell us about? Send us an email at catchinupwithcarter@gmail.com. That's catchin with no G in the middle. catchinupwithcarter@gmail.com. We want to know your ideas and we want to talk about them. Toodaloo. Welcome back to the Catchin Up with Carter and Fan podcast on YouTube. Thank you for clicking, and thank you. We're going to learn so much about goats today, and who better to learn from than Deb Kolaris, who is the founder, farmer, maker of handcrafted soaps and essentials from her own farm, which is called Hop and Hen Farm. They're out of McHenry County. Hi, Deb. How are you today on this frigid, cold day?
Oh, I'm doing good, and we're actually Lake County, not McHenry County. So.
Oh, excuse me, Lake County. So what?
Does that make any difference at all?
No, that shouldn't matter at all. Where exactly is that? What are some towns nearby included in Lake County?
Lake County we're in Lake Villa, so we're close to Antioch, Gurnee. Lake County's pretty big, so there's McHenry is the county next to us. Right,
so not far from Rochelle, from Rockford, all these places, and a lot of other places in Illinois, not far at all.
Right, we're about 5 minutes from the Wisconsin border, so.
Oh, yeah, so that's not too far from us, okay. So tell me, what do you do on your farm? Let's just get started. What all is Hop and Hen? What is Hop and Hen?
So we call it Hop and Hen because we're also home brewers, and so we started brewing many years ago, and we grow hops. So it's the hop thing is also kind of a play on the name of chickens and goats because they hop around and stuff. But we've got chickens and goats, and we started primarily rescuing goats, just that were bound for slaughter or something else because bucklings, I don't know if you know anything about goats, but on dairy farms, bucklings are not very, they're not very precious, even though they're sweet and great. They often don't make it on a dairy farm. So we rescued a few of them and then just kind of started a business based on that and the things that we were making. And so it's been going on since 2015. And, here we are in 2023. Can you believe it?
Yeah. So that's 8 years then. How many goats do you have now, you think?
We have 14 goats. So not a giant farm, but 14, they're pretty good sized goats. I think when people see the kind we have, they're like, oh, wow. I think a lot of people see little goats, smaller like Nigerian and, smaller type goats that are more, like the size of a dog. And ours are more the size of a small pony. Yeah.
So the 14 that you have, what do you do with them? What is your primary use for these goats, and what kind do you have on your farm?
Well, I'll start with the kinds we've got. We've got Nubian, they're kind of a cross. So we've got Nubian cross with Oberhasli and Alpine. And so these are considered dairy goats, dairy breeds. And then the latest generation is kind of all of those crosses with a Nigerian dwarf. So these are all considered dairy goats. And we primarily got our goats in the very beginning really to both rescue them and help us with brush management on our property. And they're really great at eating down, invasive vines and, trees like buckthorn and all these other invasive types of vegetation. And they eat poison ivy and, they're really good for that kind of stuff. So they're kind of more like a brush management tool to start with for us. And then, of course, they just all become our pets and we just adore them. So now we've got a few does that are in milk. So we have been milking goats for, several years, and producing milk for sale for pet use only. That's what we're registered for here in Illinois. And then, of course, I make soaps and lotions and personal consumption cheese and, that kind of stuff. Yeah, cheese is like the first thing I started making when we had a doe in milk who we rescued from a different dairy farm. They didn't like the way she milked or whatever, so they got rid of her. And we were really needing a doe in milk because we were bottle feeding 3 very hungry little bucklings. And we were making milk you do with like milk replacement and whatever. And it's really tough on them because cow's milk the molecules are bigger. So it's a little bit tougher for them to digest. It's tough on humans as well. So, being able to get a doe that had milk, we were able to milk her and then turn around and feed these little bucklings. And so it made our lives a lot easier. But then, of course, there was a lot of milk. And so we were accumulating so much milk that we're like, we need to start making something. So I started making cheese at first and then went into lotion and then went into soap.
Okay, so I tried over Christmas. I had never tried goat cheese that I could remember. If I did, I didn't know. And we went to Aldi, and I was feeling bougie, so I saw a few different types of goat cheeses. And I'm going to tell you right now that those are some of the best cheeses I've ever tasted. Like the texture of goat cheese and the different things you can mix it. One was with truffles, one was with cranberries, one was with honey, and there was another kind. And there's just like so many ways to flavor that and make it. It was so delicious. So what's the process if somebody is going to do this at home? Let's say, hey, okay, I really want to, have goats for my profit. What, as far as milk and other products you make, what are the basic things you need to know about doing something like that? Is it easy or is it a hard process to make the cheese and stuff like that?
Making the cheese is probably the easiest part of having goats. Like of all the things you're doing, the goat care is the thing that takes the most time and effort and resources. Cheese making is pretty easy, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of joy in it. I do think if people are considering getting goats to be able to make cheese, they should really definitely only consider dairy goats, because meat goats tend to have a little more, I don't know, the milk texture is about the same, but the taste sometimes puts people off a little bit. So, and that's why, dairy goats have a tendency to have more butter fats and stuff in their milk. So, it just makes for a better quality cheese overall. But really, like getting goats, it's, you can start with a couple if you want, but I think the main thing is making sure that you kind of decide what you want to do with them. Some people don't want to just make cheese. They want to, they do want to just have them for brush management or as a little companion or whatever. But what we say in the goat circles is an only goat is a lonely goat. So you can't just get one. You really, they're pack herd type animals, and so they really thrive better for themselves if they have a companion of their own. Whether that's one or multiple more goats, but. The shelter and the care and the containment and the fencing and, their nutrition and their vaccines and all those other things go into having a good goat, and having a good experience with them.
So do you breed them for sale also, or do you just do the products that you make with them and have them as pets?
We mainly have them as pets, but we have sold goats in the past, not on a large scale. But what will happen is we will end up having a couple babies in a season, and somebody may want one or two, or they have one and they want one of ours or whatever. So we've got people that we know that are also goat people, and so that's kind of how we do it. We don't put them on the open market with, a sign for sale or anything like that. And in fact, all of our boy goats right now are wethers, which means they've all been neutered, because we didn't want to have any kidding this season. We wanted to kind of give all of our does a break. And we've also got some younger doelings that are not quite a year old yet, and we didn't want them bred, until they were over a year old. It's just healthier for them not to be pregnant before they're a year old.
So the documentary that I was watching, it's like a short little film I watched. I'm trying to think the name of I think it was Paragraphic was the name of the YouTube channel, but they do a really cool one on goat milking. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the guy said that some things that people didn't know was that you had to have them. Don't they need to be breeding or something like that in order for them to produce the milk for you? Or am I wrong?
No, you're right. So, we had 4 of our does had kidded last season. So last spring, 4 does had babies. Of those 4 does, 3 of them are still milking. They've weaned their, 2 of them still have babies that are nursing. This is how we kind of, on a real, hardcore dairy farm, we would have weaned all of these guys, at 8 weeks, old. But we've got some of these, some of the babies are still nursing, and we're coming up on a year. So we don't knock them off. We let them go ahead and nurse as long as the moms will tolerate it, But as long as they're doing that, and so right now I have 2 that are kind of still nursing and 1 that's not, but she's still in milk, and the other 2 are still wanting to get in the stand because they're not nursing that much. So they'll continue to produce milk, and our main doe, Annie, which is a lot of our products are named after her. Annie goat she's a very great milker. She will milk we've had her milking for 2 and 3 years. She just produces like crazy. So, yeah.
So when you say that, how much would you get out of 1 goat or 2 goats? How much do you get daily or whatever this is produced that's actually able to be used?
It kind of just depends, on the female and kind of what you're feeding and everything. We're not a hardcore dairy farm where they're not in service to us all day. We don't do that to them. We milk them once a day. It's in the morning, and that milking time takes about 10 or so minutes for that one doe. And Annie can produce up to a gallon a day by herself. The other ones that are milk right now go anywhere from a quart to a half gallon a piece. So yeah, those three, if we were really working it hard, we'd probably be getting, 2 to 3 gallons a day. But we don't necessarily need that. And, as lactating females, they have to make sure that they've got calcium-rich food and, all this stuff. So there's a lot that goes into their production, and we don't really overfeed them to try to get the milk up like that. We don't really need to. I've got enough stored for my own use for making stuff, and we have enough of we have enough production to keep up with the sales of the raw milk for pet use.
With the goat milk, what is the process? I mean, do you just use it for everyday use for like cereal and stuff too?
Yes.
So you can go out there, get some, and then bam, you just automatically, or do you have to do anything to it?
I don't have to do anything to it. So,
such a city boy question. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. But I guess it depends on your level of comfort too. But for goats, their milk is already naturally got different stuff in it that just puts it right into action. So there'll be a time where I come in, like yesterday I made a feta cheese, and I decided that I needed to keep, instead of storing that milk, freezing it for use for sale, I just put it right into the pot and made a batch of feta cheese. I kept half and gave the other half to my neighbors. So, so it's, it comes out, it's, you just want it at 90 degrees so it'll incubate, whatever kind of fermenting stuff you're using. And it's good to go.
The main reason why I wanted to do this was because, obviously a lot of people are doing the self-sufficient thing, especially since 2020, but and the way our economy is and how expensive everything is too. I understand about chickens. With the cost of eggs going up, I understand why a lot of people want to learn about raising chickens. So, but with goats though, one thing I was learning from this, one thing I was watching was the benefits of goat milk is actually incredible. Like is like 3 times better than cow's milk. And I didn't even know that I didn't even think, because I'm not lactose myself, but for people that are lactose intolerant, this offers a good, a good substitute to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really good alternative to cow's milk. Cow's milk is, molecularly, it's the structure of it is they're bigger molecules than human milk, for one. We're not set up to really, our bodies as humans are not set up to really digest those kinds of molecules, those kinds of sizes of fat molecules and such. And so that's why you'll find a lot of people are lactose intolerant. But when you look at goat milk, its molecules and its structure are very much like human milk. The pH is almost the same. The size and everything of the molecules are about the same as well. So it makes it a lot more easily digestible for us. And also for baby goats, so like, some people will have problems even feeding other baby animals, so you have people who are rescuing, kittens and stuff, for example, maybe the mama cat, something happened to it. And so they're having to bottle feed baby kittens. When we have people get milk from us, this goat milk, and the babies actually thrive because the molecules of that milk are so much smaller that the babies actually can digest it, where some of the milk replacements and stuff are out there are made with cow's milk, and they're, a lot of us are not set up to digest that, and it's hard on their systems, and gives them gas and all this other stuff. So yeah, and it's it's just got other minerals and stuff in it that's just different than what cows get. And, some of that is because of the diet of goats. They're vegetation eaters. If you let them loose, they're going to rip through a forest and eat all the branches and trees and bark and leaves and all of that stuff. So they've got a really great, diverse, rich, diet that definitely reflects itself in their milk. So,
what do you suggest? I guess as far as getting goats, where would you tell somebody? I don't know. Is it kind of like getting a puppy? And do you trust Facebook? Do you trust Craigslist? Where's the proper place to get the right goats? You know what I mean? And at what lifespan should you get them at? Like, what stage of life should you get them to if you're getting them for the milking process?
Right. I think there's multiple ways. And I think when I see stuff, because I'm a part of, many like goat groups and stuff that are on Facebook, and, there's different places people will go, and they'll go to like an animal auction, which is kind of almost a dumping ground for people's livestock. It's really pretty tragic if you've ever gone to one. I wouldn't recommend going to them, because that's usually farmers and such are sometimes offloading animals that are not in the best of health. And they, it might be a hell of a deal, and you'll get there and you're like, wow, this goat's only $50 or whatever, but that goat might have some problems you don't know about. So, I suggest if somebody really is serious about trying to get a goat, that they get a hold of people that are goat breeders, or have a small farm with goats on it, and ask them if they sell their goats, and kind of go from there. Because then, and look at the condition of the place. I find that I've seen people get goats from places that are really pretty awful, the conditions for the animal. And, you just got to think about if the conditions are really bad for that animal, what kind of condition is the animal going to be in? And then how much care are you going to have to put into making sure that animal recovers? And I kind of say that because we early on, and some people have the best of intentions, they just don't know better. We rescued a few goats early on that were, well loved. The folks really loved them and cared for them, but they were feeding them really poorly. And by poorly, I mean they were eating too many grains and stuff. And we weren't really aware of that for quite a few months, until one of them developed a urinary calculi that ended up killing him. What happens is male goats who are neutered, they're called wethers. When they're neutered, they really, and even when they're not weathered, they really shouldn't have, people will feed them corn, stuff, because they're like, they really love it, and it's sweet corn and whatever. It's not good for them. It's not a goat's friend. And males can get, this calcium buildup in their urethra, and it'll burst. They'll just kill them. And you won't know right away. It's because it's happening internally, and they'll end up bleeding to death internally. So, I mean, it's tragic, and we watched this happen with one goat that we had rescued, and we didn't know what happened with him. And then they did a necropsy on him, and that's how he passed, which is just so sad. So ever after that, we're like, okay, they don't need corn and sweet feed and all that nonsense. And I see people feeding them animal crackers and junk food and stuff, and that's not what a goat is. So for health reasons, it's just important to feed them the right stuff. They really just need hay, and of course they're going to take the snacks you give them, and they'll go crazy for them, but they really don't need it. They barely need any kind of goat chow or anything like that. The females need a little more, especially lactating females. But their diet in the wild is vegetation.
Is it easy for you to have goats in there? I mean, do they like to escape a lot?
Oh God, all the time.
So you gotta bunker down there then, huh? But do they come back at least, or?
It really just depends. But the problem is this. Depending on people's property and stuff like that. Somebody's close to a road. Goats are at large and running around. They can get hit. They can get killed. By something else. Something else can take them out. A coyote can get them. So really, containment is probably the biggest issue with having goats. They will they'll be plotting all day, it seems like, to try to figure out how to, get out of your enclosure. And so the fence has got to be tall enough. There can't be any breaches. It's like they walk along trying to find the breach so they can get out. Even you can have the best everything, the best setup for them, the best food and all the stuff they need, nourishment and enrichment and whatever, but they just sit and plot and look over somewhere else. How can we get over there? We need to get there. So yeah, containment is a big thing. It's a lot of work. So keeping them contained is huge. The care of them too is, I was going to remind also that water is such a big thing for them. Goats drink on average like a gallon to 3 gallons of water a day. And they will not drink nasty water. So if you've got, like a dog, might drink, something kind of looks dank and stinky or whatever, and dogs might drink it, and even chickens will drink, seen them drink out of mud puddles. Goats will not do that. And if there's not water available to them that's nice and clean, they really love fresh water, they'll snub it and they'll end up getting sick from dehydration. So
what, oh man, okay. I got a few more questions I want to ask you. If you were to name your favorite goat that you have right now, what is the name?
Oh no, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I gotta say Annie.
Did you look around to see if the other ones were listening?
Yeah, I know. Annie Deb still is my favorite. She's our matriarch, so she's still my very favorite. She's a sassy goat. But she's just very noble goat to me, and I just adore her. So she's still my favorite.
I'm going to remember this because I want to be able to come and meet these goats, hopefully, because you're able to do that, right? How do you buy, how does one buy your product, and what all do you sell on your website? And please plug yourself. I want to learn more about goats, and I got a couple more questions, but could you just tell us about Hop and Hen and tell me all what you can buy and how to do it?
Well, we've got a website. So it's hopandhen.com, and most of the products that I sell are there. They're, soap lotions. We do some farm-themed products and stuff. I try to make things that are very useful. I don't make like a bunch of tchotchkes and such like that. It's things that are utilitarian, in people's houses and on their farms and whatnot. So napkins and whatnot. That's all up on the website. We also attend some farmers markets up in Antioch and some different local festivals and stuff, so people can, stop by our booth. If they follow us, on Facebook or Instagram or anything, we usually put when we're, like our calendar of when we're going to be out and about and stuff. And I have a store that's on site for like people that are in the area. They either by appointment, and we're trying to figure out some hours and stuff, but we have a little store here on the property that we open occasionally for people to come and visit. And we do some little goat events here and stuff too. So it's goat-centered events. We did a goats and cocoa thing back in December. It was a lot of fun.
Goats and cocoa. My fiance would have been there if we knew about it. That sounds so much fun. There's a lot of neat goats, man. I tell you, I always, it seems like I'm always drawn to them when you go to petting farms and zoos and stuff, because they're such a neat animal. What's crazy about goats is they like to get into everything, like you say, but at the same time, they seem to be very clean, right? Aren't they one of the cleanest animals out there?
They seem to be. They're very clean. It's funny how their coats, you don't have to wash them or anything like that. They are farm animals, but they roll in the dirt, and I think it's based on what they eat and the things that they've got in proximity to them that keeps their coats really nice. Like our goats have super shiny coats, and I attribute that a lot to their diet and the fact that they get good quality food. We have our goat grains mixed by Gray's Lake. They're down at Gray's Lake Feed Sales. They're in Gray's Lake. And so we have like this combination of things that we want in that food that we do give the goats. And it really just shows, like their diet, it really shows in their coats and stuff. They're very healthy and well-toned, animals.
One thing you mentioned to me off the recording, one thing you said was like how much, work and effort goes into something like this. What's a day like for Deb and your husband? Because you say he does a whole lot too, but he has to work also because it takes a lot to run an organization, a job, or a business like what you have going on, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we both work on this farm, but, he's got a regular day job, so he's tied up with that, working on that. But the infrastructure in the barnyard and everything, that's all on him. He's the one that's, come up with the plans for the fencing and the different enclosures and stuff for them. And, he's the one that's really the guy that keeps those goats in the yard, that keeps them on the property because, he walks the fence line often, just making sure that there's not a breach somewhere. We've had to reinforce different areas of the fence because we've got, really tall trees. A big tree fell down and knocked a portion of fence out. And, that could have been a disaster. The goats have been running around somewhere. So, he's very good with that. And he does a lot of the milking. I would say he does the majority of the milking in the morning. So, our day starts with that. It's getting the goats milk. It's, opening up the chickens. It's like getting everybody squared away for the day. And then for me, it's periodic checks through the day to just make sure everybody's okay because we back up to a wetland, marsh area. The lake is behind us. And so there's giant birds of prey around here. They can pick off chickens and all that. But we've got a livestock guardian dog who stays with the goats all the time. He is their keeper, really. So, but yeah, Steven's he's the land management with the goats guy. He's always talking to them. You look out the window and they're following him all around. So
I just want to be able to come out there one day early in the morning and just help y'all feed them or milk or what, and just do the whole process. My fiance and I and a couple of our kids were lucky to do one in Sparta where I stayed at an Airbnb on a dairy farm, and he's like, if you want to get up with us. I'm like, all right, bet. So we went in there and I asked all my city folk questions like I do what I'm doing exactly right now. And it was a cool process. It was really neat seeing the babies, and then he let us touch a pregnant cat or cow with the calf, and you could feel the calf move. And I would love to do that for any animal. Alpaca, goats, I'm coming. I'm trying to see it. I think it's neat. I think, life is so awesome. Yeah. Yeah,
it's fun. It is fun. Like the whole thing is very, I don't know, you just feel a connection with the earth and everything when you're doing this with them. And they're so sentient. Goats are very sensitive. They're very, very smart. Yeah, and it is. There's just a peacefulness about it. Even though, sometimes they're uncooperative, like right now it's really cold. And so Annie is not interested in getting up to the milking parlor. She doesn't want to go up there, but she's also our oldest goat, so she I think she's entitled to days off if she wants them. We let her decide that. And yeah, there is something really, really peaceful about the whole experience, regardless of how bad they're being.
I also want to throw in there too, if people don't already know, it seems like goats get along with just about anybody, right? They like any animal, as long as you don't mess with them, they're pretty even going, right?
Yeah, they're pretty good, good natured. We've got chickens, of course, that run through the whole goat yard and everything. As far as dogs and, other animals, I really encourage people to make sure that they're very careful about introducing a dog to goats. Some dogs just have a high prey drive, like a husky or, those types of dogs. And yeah, we've got two different dogs, and one is a livestock guardian dog. He stays with the goats constantly, but he had to be trained, with them and our other livestock. So he was kind of indiscriminately taking out chickens until we worked with him to understand that, that's part of your job too, is to protect them as well. So anyway, back to how well they get along with everything. It's really dependent on how well trained, like say, for example, a dog is. We ran an Airbnb for a little while too, at a different property, and had our goats there, and some guests were permitted to bring dogs and stuff, and we wouldn't let them in the yard with the goats because they were just couldn't stop staring at them. So we knew what was going to happen. They were just trying to get through the fence to get to the goats. And so you got to be super careful with that introduction.
Well, there you have it. I hope you learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot. I think there's going to have to be a part 2 because I'm going to have like a million more questions once I get off here. But Deb, thank you so much. Again, it's Hop and Hen, HOPANDHEN.com. And you can buy her soaps and cheeses. Oh, like what's your top selling cheese? What's your favorite goat flavored cheese?
I'm not permitted to sell cheese.
Oh, you're not?
No, the state doesn't allow me to sell cheese unless I'm producing in a commercial kitchen, and there's a bunch of regulations and license stuff for all of that.
Oh.
We're not doing that yet. We're selling goat milk for pet use. The consumption of, we can't even sell the goat milk for human consumption. There's a big dairy lobby here, in the area.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Doesn't like little farms like ours, I guess, for that kind of stuff.
Okay, what's your top selling soap then?
Probably I'm going to say probably the Farmhouse Ale is probably our top selling soap right now. Kind of a spicy soap. It's made with spent grains from a local brewery called Ninth Hour. We get their spent grains for our goats.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And you sell hops too at your store, right?
We don't sell hops yet. We just moved onto this property just over a year ago, so we've got our hops planted, and we expect to have some kind of crop this coming fall. So we'll see what comes out of the ground.
So cool, so cool. Thank you so much for your time. Again, Hop and Hen, this is Deb. She runs a great business of stuff that you can get from her online, as well as go to farmers markets in Antioch and other places. And she said it's on a calendar on her website. So if you didn't learn enough about goats now, we'll learn more later. But thank you so much, Deb, for your time. I really do appreciate it.
You bet, Jess. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you have it, guys. That was Deb Kolaris teaching us all about the dang old goats of the world. Sounds like you need to get a goat. Make sure you are allowed to and permitted to have them in your area, and make sure you have everything ready, because they are no joke. They're smart son of a guns, those goats are, and they will get out, as she said. So you got to be ready for that. And they are picky eaters and picky drinkers. So if you're going to get into the goat business, make sure you do your research, folks. And Google is a great thing, but Deb is here for you too. So be sure to check out hopandhen.com. 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 And follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us, send us an email if you have a topic you think I should talk about, interview about. Send me one. I'd love to talk to you guys, any of you. Let's do it. And if you have an Airbnb, I would love to do a review of it. We have another one that we're supposed to be posting soon. Hint, hint, Jordan, get it done for us, please. Anyway, so thank you so much. I hope you learned a lot. Be safe, and please take care.
Thank you for spending an hour of your time with us. Now will you do yourself a favor? Check us out on Catching Up with Carter and Fam Show. Do yourself another favor and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Insta. Our dog's also up there, so you'll be doing yourself a third favor. And we'll see you next week. Toodles!